Welcome back to Atlassian Team 26. We're streaming live right here in Anaheim. I'm Alison, Kosik, joined alongside by Christophe, Bertrand. And we're about to get into a discussion that I think a lot of people can relate to. If anybody's ever had the experience of filing a ticket, and then you're wondering why, service management hasn't kept up with that ticket or how workflows are today, we're going to get some answers.
Yes, service desks were not designed for AI until now.
Until now, yes. Well, let's get into the discussion. I want to bring in our guest at the moment, MaSonya Scott. She's the AI and Service Management Evangelist with Atlassian. Welcome to theCUBE.
Thank you. This feels fun.
It's going to be fun. So walk us through exactly what an AI and Service Management Evangelist does at Atlassian.
So as an AI Service Management Evangelist, I started my career 28 years ago in the help desk. So help desk for help desk. So working at a former legacy tool, helping customers with their issues with help desk. And so from there, I took my career into consulting in different roles through the life cycle of services. And as an evangelist, I basically go around the world talking to different teams, doing speaker sessions, doing roundtables and workshops to help people navigate through as these different waves of changes in service management. It's beyond just IT service management. It's enterprise service management. It's customer service management. Helping them understand, we've seen all these changes in my past 28 years, from when SaaS was introduced to cloud, and now here at AI. How do you use those fundamentals to then pivot and give you how to incorporate the principles, the foundational principles in this new world to make your services that you provide internally and externally to your customers better? So I just go talk, yap, preach, and basically give people the ability to understand that this is possible and what to consider. What are you not considering? So that's what I do.
Right, and the reality is today, if you think about where service management in general terms is, and maybe we just focus on IT for a second, it's very, very siloed. I mean, it's hard to really get a unified view. And then you get this AI thing, and then you have people now using agents and getting into all sorts of situations. Isn't it time to actually use AI as a friend and revisit how we operate in terms of supporting employees, supporting customers, and really trying to unify all of that and automate some tasks as well?
So I would say what's unique about Atlassian is that we started in software development and saw, before even AI came, the need for operations and software development teams to interact to get that full context. So, software development teams and operations, they love each other, right? No, they don't, right? And so even before AI came, we found out how the ways of working to break down those silos, to bring those teams to come together and do that. And then what we leverage with AI is, how do you give that contextual information across those different silos so that as developers are bringing in code, right? And they can collaborate with the operations teams.
So let's talk about the differentiation of this. A lot of vendors, they're layering AI onto legacy systems that are already there. What makes this approach fundamentally different?
It starts at the core, before you get to the tool, how the ways of working across your teams. So when you start at that layer, then you figure out, we natively built in with our service collection that we announced in Team Europe last fall. We curated, powered by Rovo, our AI platform, the ability to do external support through customer service management, internal support for your IT and your business teams through our flagship Jira Service Management, and then assets, which pulls all that context information together. We tried to we basically made it intuitive to how does those four things connect and create that, ability from an external perspective, given the context as people call in and they either need help with something or they need to request a service. From an internal, if there's an issue, some outage or any type of different scenario, how do you respond? How does AI and Rovo give you that context and that information to give to the teams? How do they create those knowledge articles or root cause analysis reports? How to give that intuitive information. So that's what we did, was building that upon what we already had developed.
Right, and what's interesting is now we have a bit of a Wild West situation happening, in my opinion, where because people feel more empowered by AI to build their own agents. So it's one thing to help redefine or redesign service management with AI, and I think it's going to add for context, and you're in the workflow, so it makes so much sense that you'd be at the heart of it. But it's a new species, as your CEO said. We've just unleashed something very different. What do you do? How do you deal with an over-permissioned agent, for example, or shadow AI? I mean, people doing stuff and like all of a sudden,
I would say you have to build trust. Regardless of what disciplinary in AI, you have to build trust. And I call it this tag model, right? So thinking about transparency, identifying what that service workflow is, the value of it, what information, what are the inputs and the outputs, when does a human get involved? When does the AI just automate, do work autonomously? When does the humans only work on that information? So providing the transparency of your service-driven workflows. Right. Then the A is for accountability. Everything in operations, I don't care what new innovation has happened, something always fails, right? So then if something fails with an AI workflow agent, who's accountable? Who's responsible? What's that back out plan? And then those guardrails. How are the agents getting the context of the information that you have to figure out when to move the needle?
Right. And actually, that's a very interesting point you're making, because unfortunately, the risk, if you don't do that from the beginning, having this discipline, create a potentially a governance for sure, but a compliance risk. What if an agent runs on somebody's PC, or laptop, and starts accessing data they shouldn't, or network they shouldn't, and then publishes it, or starts building tables or destroying tables? Pick your poison, right? So I really love the model, but is it realistic today that organizations are thinking about this first, or are they sort of trying to catch up?
So I think that organizations are reacting to say, I'm going to do AI just for what? And I think you have to pause and take that crawl, walk, run model of identifying those low-hanging fruits. This is consulting 101.
Right.
So like your password resets, anything, your small tier 1 services that are routine, low-hanging fruit. We have a customer that built service agents on our Jira Service Management platform of their top 10 services, their top 10 issues. And they automated those so it became more self-service, low detection, low reflection. And what happened was they reduced their call volume by 47% in 1 month, because they looked at those key quick wins and patterns. And what did that do? It didn't replace anybody. They created an operational command center to identify the next wave and the next approach. So instead of just trying to make sure, figuring out how do you build on top of processes, whether it's an IDLE framework, ISO, whatever framework you're doing, build a mechanism iteratively on how to introduce, see the quick wins, build the trust, build the trust with your auditors, build the trust with the different, your compliance teams, and then keep bringing it in. And then you'll ultimately get to the more complex. A lot of people are trying to go too complex, too quick. Start small and grow. That's my motto.
So there are requests that AI should handle end without human involvement.
Yes,
but
small routines.
So where do service teams then spend the rest of their day? Spend their day. Where are they catching?
They spend the rest of their day on the backlog. How many defects? How many issues? Those problems that they were never able to go and resolve. Every software development team has a product backlog or issue backlog. Every operational team has problems that they just put a workaround on. They go and figure out that next wave to figure out a way to automate And then that cycle keeps coming in, because here's the beauty of it. AI is bringing in another level of complexity.
Right.
Prior to AI, there was still a backlog of tickets and issues. So now with this AI, how do we now figure out when do we intervene, and what role does AI play, and when do you bring in a human for that? So it's a new level of complexity that we've got to solve for. So it's not that they don't have anything to do, they actually got more to do. But now that we've given them the routine, how do we come up with the strategy of making the customer experience better, the service experience better, and the trust that if there's an issue, operations will handle it, make it better. They see the trends, they go tell the product teams and the development teams, hey, we're noticing these types of issues. How can we make that product better?
Right. And one of the thoughts I have, I spent a lot of time on, recovery, cyber resiliency, et cetera. Obviously, I see here that there's no pun intended, but a confluence here of problems that really the security ops, security response teams should also be involved in. So isn't, in a sense, the delineation or the perimeter of traditional service desks sort of changing to be more and more embedded in a security response? Because I think a lot of the problems we see, especially with AI-powered attacks, are really cyber-related. Of course, there's always going to be user error, system errors, and things like that. But I do believe, though, that statistically, it's a lot of cyber stuff. So how do you see that evolving?
That's the reason why I say you got to break down the silos. Service domain areas, security ops is one part of those service domains.
Okay.
Right? And so if you're looking and the teams are seeing certain trends, how do they interact? How are the vulnerabilities coming in? How was that particular system architected? And then how are those issues? What patterns of issues have we been seeing? How do we get SecOps,
right,
operations, IT ops,
right,
and then also the development teams to work together to figure out, architect right, communicate what trends we're seeing, and give a better response. The biggest thing we did when, past 10 years was create these microservices. So in those microservices, everybody has their components and they do functions. AI needs to have access in the interconnection of all of that information, and security is one of those different areas. So how do you bring that together? Yeah.
A year or two from now, what does the service experience feel like?
I think the service experience feels you're moving from proactive to almost invisible. Meaning that AI is preventing. So you're now reporting based on the trends that you're seeing. And this year too is for people who are adopting faster. There are going to be different maturity levels, right? I call it the reactive, your structured, your traditional, proactive, where they're using AI as inputs and outputs, and then that invisible. And we just released a white paper on Shatter the Service Quo that talks about what we feel the future of service management is. We ultimately want to get to the thing where we're reporting to leadership, this is how much has been prevented, right? And we're going to work on more complex issues, because new innovation, every time something new comes in, it still has to settle. And the service operations teams are where that settles and gets that contours. And then it just continues to evolve and evolve. So there's never gonna, people told me years ago, incident management, problem management, change management would be dead. Over 20 years ago. We're still doing it. Why? Because it's not the process. It's that as we evolve and as our technology evolves, we have to account for these different mechanisms and governance. Make sense?
Yeah.
It does make a lot of sense. I think brings up another question for our viewers, which is, okay, so what KPIs should I use now? It can be just number of tickets or,
So I would say as you evolve, you measure where you are, but you're going to go, how many issues were deflected as a result of AI? How many human interactions, that we're doing? How faster are we going? But then also the value stream across, not just at the operational perspective, from the beginning of that product, how's that product coming to market faster and it doesn't have as many issues as a result of us working collaboratively together through the value stream from the product inception all the way to the operational of that product or service. So that's what we're going to be looking at long term. And then guess what? There's going to be another wave of KPIs. It's going to I tell people the number one thing, you have to bake into your organization the ability to know that change is normal. So how do you come up and evaluate? There's this principle in service management called continuous service improvement. So how do you continually figure out the new KPIs, the new metrics as you're moving from that? Because you're now also going to be looking at the metrics of how effective are these agents?
Exactly.
And then at some point, there's going to be the level where agents are going to be managed by agents. So it's never going to end. We're going to always kind of get complexity. How do you look at the CMDB differently? What's value? When will an agent become an asset?
Right.
All good questions.
All good questions.
Enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks for stopping by theCUBE. And you've been watching theCUBE, the leader in live technology coverage and enterprise tech analysis. We'll be right back.
Thank you.